The granary is empty, sire.
Those are the words every Stronghold fan dreads to hear, because when you hear that, you know your popularity is about to plunge. The granary is the heart of the Stronghold experience, a structure second only to your lord in importance and second only to your stockpile and build order. It's where all food is stored for your townsfolk, and essentially it's the engine behind your people's happiness. Without food, your castle will quickly fall apart.
People are leaving the castle.
In today's video, I'll be diving deep into the evolution of the granary throughout the Stronghold series, from its humble beginnings in Stronghold 1 to the more refined centrepiece it became in Stronghold Warlords. Let's break it down. In Stronghold 1 and Crusader, the granary was at its simplest. You had 5 ration options, from no rations to double rations.
Double rations? Great!
And a neat 1+ happiness buff for each extra food type stored. The system offered penalties and bonuses ranging from -8 happiness to +11, and featured 4 classic food types: bread, cheese, meat and apples, the staples of medieval life and the series itself, until the shake-up in Warlords. More on that later. Each granary held a maximum of 250 food units, but you could build more granaries, as long as they were adjacent. Food sold for 4 gold paled in comparison to many goods from the stockpile or armory, but it could be used as a reliable resource to sell, with ale easily counterbalancing any ill effects of low rations.
It's not easy being drunk all the time. Everyone would do it if it were easy.
However, in my view, due to the low selling price, I often found it simpler and more efficient to use food for tax gain, especially extortionate taxes. With double rations and all 4 food types, you could rake in 1.4 gold per peasant per month. That's a lot of gold.
You've got to be joking!
You're joking! You're joking! I can't believe my ears!
In Crusader, despite using the same granary mechanics, the desert setting changed the game. Farms could only be placed on grassland, so players had to choose: place your granary within castle walls for safety, or place it closer to the farms for efficiency, but risk losing everything to enemy raids. The decision added a fantastic dynamic to gameplay, and if you stuck with bread and built your bakeries inside your walls, you could mitigate much of the risk with only the wheat farms vulnerable. However, with longer production chains, it did take longer to set up, and with only 1 food item available, popularity boost was limited to 8+ happiness. The player had to choose between food stability or maximising popularity boost through the granary. This subtle change that we saw in Crusader, where farms could only be placed on grasslands, really added depth to food production, and made skirmishes outside the castle walls a lot more common. Next came Stronghold 2 and Legends, where Firefly introduced a new twist: honour. Food now granted not only happiness but also honour, with variety boosting honour and larger rations still fueling happiness. Though happiness buffs maxed out at A+, no more 11+ like Crusader, honour became essential in progressing through the social ranks.
By the power vested in me by my father, King Edward, and by all the witnesses here, I dub thee Sir William.
In Stronghold 2, you started out as a freeman and rose through the ranks to the level of Duke, and for each rank the player needed a set level of honour to progress. In the early game in Stronghold 2, granaries were essential for providing the honour needed, and in Legends, since farms only required wood, food became the most accessible honour generator at the start of each match. Unlike earlier entries, the granary had no food unit cap. You only needed 1 granary. Farms could now be built anywhere, so the granary became a central structure surrounded by farms, creating a highly efficient production loop. But this came with a cost. Gameplay leaned more defensive. Since farms were safer, players didn't have to defend their farmland as often. Compared to Crusader or the original Stronghold, where farmland was scarce and vulnerable, the game lost some of its intensity. As for the economy, food still sold for 4 gold and cost 8 to buy, just like in the earlier entries, allowing for the same gameplay style as the original and Crusader, where you could either focus on high rations to increase taxes for simplicity, or sell food and counterbalance the ill effects with ale or religion.
I hate grapes. Oh, crush them all. Crush them all, I say.
And Stronghold 2 added one more dynamic: criminals. Yes, food could be stolen. If criminals made it back to their homes undetected, the food was gone. This forced players to build guard posts near granaries. Annoying? Absolutely. But it made food even more precious, especially since the happiness from food was often the main counter to rising crime.
Wait! I don't think my arms are supposed to go that far! Ah!
Stronghold 3 and Stronghold 2 shook up the formula big time, removing honour as something generated by the granary and dramatically expanding the mechanics. Maximum food buffs shot up to 65 plus, with feasting rations which were 5 times that of normal rations, offering a massive 50 plus happiness boost. Having each food type could also grant 15 plus happiness, making the incentive to diversify your food production stronger than ever.
Food, food, food. I'm putting on so much weight.
Half rations were also introduced, adding one extra option for rations below normal, with a lesser happiness penalty compared to quarter rations.
Could use a little extra food. My trousers are slipping.
Goods also now sold for a fraction of the price of previous entries. In Stronghold 3, a unit of meat sold for 1.4 gold, cheese for 1, apples for 0.8 and bread for 0.6, and in Stronghold Crusader 2 all food sold for 0.6 gold, making it more challenging for players to profit from the sales of food compared to previous entries. However, to counterbalance this, Stronghold 3 introduced automatic selling and buying of goods to the series, massively increasing the efficiency of selling surplus food from the granary, and was highly beneficial later in the game, when keeping up with the demands for food was much more challenging, particularly in Stronghold Crusader 2 due to it continuing on the grassland mechanics from the original Crusader. The player just set the food to automatic purchase, and as soon as the food fell below the automatic purchase price, an automatic purchase of the same amount would be made. It was total efficiency, no more frantically clicking mid-siege.
Fight better than your father. I'll give you that.
Food prices were set at 6 gold per unit in Stronghold 3, cheaper than previous entries and then further reduced in Stronghold Crusader 2, and set to individual prices. Apples per unit cost 1.2 gold to buy, cheese 2.2, meat 1.8 and bread 2.6. The cheaper purchasing prices of food in both entries made it much easier to focus peasants on other valuable resources and simply buying food for happiness gain and taxes, greatly adding to the feeling of military focus in Crusader 2 in particular. In Stronghold Warlords, granary management was further refined, taking the new systems added in Stronghold 3 and Crusader 2 and building on them further. You could now individually set ration sizes for each food type, giving you total control over your economy. With a potential of plus 72 happiness, the highest in the series, food once again took centre stage as a way of boosting happiness. Warlords was the first in the series to ditch the old medieval staples and instead embraced East Asian cuisine.
We need rice just to live, Highness.
Apples became rice, cheese became vegetables, and meat remained meat. Wheat was also replaced by tea, stored in the granary, and uses a new happiness system, functioning similar to ale in earlier games.
I think I'll have a nice cup of tea, Highness.
Personally, I found due to the massive increases in happiness buffs at the granary that it was simpler to focus on just rice and vegetables, due to increasing the food volumes of a particular item having an equal effect to having another item of food available. This also had the added benefit of keeping my castle free of pig squeals echoing from wall to wall, which could get kind of annoying, and it did spoil the tranquility of the setting somewhat in my view. Food also now sold for 3 gold per unit, taking the series closer to the prices seen before Stronghold 3, making selling food much more profitable again, and with automatic selling and buying still available at the market in this entry, serious profits or happiness buffs were achievable through the granary alone.
A blessing from the Lord. God be praised.
The granary has evolved immensely across the Stronghold series, from a simple ration control centre in Stronghold 1 to an honour generating powerhouse in Stronghold 2 to a strategic happiness engine in Stronghold 3 and beyond, with the latest entry Warlords adding the most player control yet, letting players manage each ration type individually and fully optimise food production. Meanwhile, Crusader and Crusader 2 reminds us all of how vulnerable and vital the granary can be, especially when placed outside the safety of castle walls in the pursuit of faster farming. As we look ahead to the next Stronghold entry, Stronghold Unreal, I hope Firefly continues the trend of depth and control, and perhaps even gives us a little more gold for that surplus food. We can only dream. So what do you think? Do you have your favourite version of the granary from the series? Do you prefer grassland farming or the freedom to build farms anywhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Stronghold content. Thanks for watching.